Keith Smith, NBA, NBC Sports, Yahoo Sports, will join us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as we take a look at what is next for the NBA. They had a call on Friday that really got things moving in a direction that makes you feel like through hell or high water, they're going to try to play, whether it be here, there, or anywhere. Most likely Orlando, Florida, which is home to our next guest, Keith Smith. He joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. And Keith, the NBA world is generally in agreement that it's going to make sense to wait until the last possible minute, but are all signs pointing to the players want to get back out there and play, and that they're going to have to start putting together a plan of how they're going to make that work?
Yeah, it's not all signs. It's pretty close to that. You have a handful of people who still have their concerns and their reservations, but the vast majority of players want to get back out there and play, whether it's themselves or just see the league finish out the season. There's a lot of money at stake, billions upon billions of dollars, and nobody wants to give that up. So it is going to be something here where I think we're looking at the people are really pushing, and hopefully they're going to, make sure everything is safe as possible. And I truly believe that is the case, and that's what we'll see. But I do think we're going to see the NBA season finish. I think there's just too much momentum headed that direction to go the other way now.
Now, when you say finish, do you mean pick up where it left off, or finish in some cockamamie manner where they put together some whack-a-mole playoff tournament, 3 games here, or, hey, 15 games left in the season, let's play it out and play our playoffs as is?
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to get the whole regular season finished. I think there's just not enough time, I think, for that to happen. And then I'm starting to lean towards we may only see the playoff teams or the teams that were in playoff contention come. One of the proposals that's out there is to bring the teams that are in playoff contention to a single site. They'll build some form of schedule that allows those teams to get a chance at getting into the playoffs. And then teams that are really kind of firmly in, they can treat those games as more warm-ups. And then you go into the playoffs. Adam Silver has been consistent. He wants to see as close to a real playoff as possible, where ideally that means 7-game series. And it roughly takes about 2 months or so, 2.5 months to play out the NBA playoffs. And that's, right around the time frame that we're in. You'd have very little travel involved, so you could really go probably every other day for teams to play and get that in. You could even maybe do some back-to-backs if you need to. If you want to do those 7-game series, I think that's the most likely outcome is we're going to see at least playoffs with something resembling, if not 7-game series, maybe there's best of 5 in the first round, and then we go to 7s or something like that. But I am very certain we're going to see, if we see basketball finish out this year, we're going to see a 7-game NBA Finals.
And maybe not all the teams being involved. Where's the line drawn, though? That's the thing. And listen, I understand that this is a time that nobody can ever really prepare for if you're in Adam Silver's shoes. So it's a very tough thing to come up and make this schedule. But it seems weird, like if there's a team that is 5 games out, 6 games out, like where is the line drawn when it's, you're not coming to Florida with us?
Yeah, I think that's what you're looking at. There's roughly about 10 teams that are really kind of out of it and don't have a real shot at the playoffs. They're 5 or more games out. That was going to be difficult to make up with as few games left as there were in the season anyway. So I think you're really looking at the teams that are 4.5 games out. Maybe give them a shot to get in. That's, unfortunately, that's all in the Western Conference that those teams are coming out of. The East is pretty well set. Where the standings were, start when the season paused a couple months back now. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go. They're on the flip side, there is some desire to bring all 30 teams to a single site, play out. Everybody plays 5, 6, 7 games, get everybody to that 70-game marker to deliver on those regional sports network contracts and go from there. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it works out. From what I understand with the NBA, it's get the testing figured out, find the site, and then they work out the details for how they're going to do this.
We're talking with Keith Smith, who resides in Florida, which today made a very interesting announcement, which was they know in Florida that it can be done safely. That's the governor, Rick DeSantis, who announced today that NBA, MLS, NBA, Major League Baseball, and anybody else, if you want to play sports, come on down. We've got room for you. So Does Walt Disney World have enough room for everybody there? Can they do NBA? Can they do MLS? Can they do baseball? Can they play football there too? I mean, what do they got going there? That can they host everybody?
Yeah, so what I did was I reached out to some folks with Disney, because it seems like the people who are furthest down the path are the NBA and the MLS, and they said, yeah, we can host both leagues. There's not an issue. It's not, it's going to take a lot of people. But for when you think of the fact that Disney, welcomes well over 100,000 guests per day into their theme parks, there's, close to, 250,000 guests staying on property at any given time and those kind of things. That's not the challenge for them that it sounds like it might be when you start talking about, 1,000 people coming, for each league and those kind of things. They can do that with relative ease. So I think what you're going to see is the Major League Baseball, we'll see. I think that seems more like, return back to your spring training facilities, if that's what you want to do and that's how you want to handle things. And then the NFL, what the word making the rumor here is, there's several teams that may be locked out or are fearing they could be locked out of their sites where they host their training camps. And they are looking at, hey, maybe, we head down to Florida and do training. But, the NFL coaches would love nothing more than get their players out there, beat them up in the heat here also, for a month or so of training camp, and then get them, back to their home stadiums and fields and the like there. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know that Disney would host everybody, but at least NBA and MLS, they're pretty far down the path of, we can do this if this is the direction those leagues want to go.
What about Woj tweeted out yesterday, and I thought this was maybe the biggest stumbling block of them all, is that basically that the players are going to have to be okay with if somebody tests positive that we're going to keep playing. And if that's not good, that a positive test is going to shut us down, that we probably shouldn't go on with this. Do you think that that's going to be a stumbling block at all? Well,
I think it was kind of rephrasing or reconfirming that later on in yesterday evening of from my understanding of the way Adam Silver said is, if another positive test is going to shut us down, we shouldn't do this. Because I think what he doesn't want to do is get 2-3 days into this thing, someone tests positive, and then everything shut down again. At that point, it's going to be really hard to restart it and resume and those kind of things. So I think what they're trying to say is, are we okay with saying, if someone tests positive, we treat that player like we would treat somebody who has the flu or something else, or let's call it a sprained ankle. You're going to be out for whatever period of time is deemed necessary. That player is going to be out, and the rest of us move on. And then I think there's obviously going to have to be a mechanism built in if it turns into 4, 5, 6, an entire team of players test positive and the like. And now all of a sudden, what do? They're going to have to do something there. But I think what Adam Silver's point, from my understanding, is if this is going to be a concern of everybody's, and I don't think he's demeaning the concern at all or trying to make less of it, it is, then we need to really think about, is this even the right thing to do?
Yeah, I find it interesting you bring up how many players possibly, if it's 5 players, if it's a team, how does the league react? And also LeBron James compared to a Furkan Korkmaz, think about the national attention, the difference and everything. And you have a Lakers team that can totally go and win this title and all of that happens. But, I'm curious about how this text message was displayed, because if it was a text to all these players and it was, want to play basketball? And the answer, I'm sure, majority of people are absolutely, I want to play basketball. But how much detail was involved in this text? Was it explained on what the process was actually going to be?
Yeah, as far as I understand it, it was fairly simple. It was, are you in favor of finishing the season, resuming the season? I don't know what the exact wording there, but it was basically, are you in favor of finishing this season? And it was that simple, because some of the players have said no. There are a handful that have spoken out. Now, there's some who initial thought was absolutely not, and now they've come back around. And unfortunately, like a lot of things in the world, this is going to come down to money. And when these guys start looking at, hey, I'm a free agent this summer, or I might be a free agent next summer, or I guess I should say off season, because it's probably not going to be in the summer. But I'm a free agent coming off. The salary cap's going to be really messed up for a couple of years. If me getting back out there can help get that into a better place, then I really need to think about that, because this is something that, you start talking about billions of dollars lost, and if games are canceled, it's going to be very hard for the league to not enact the force majeure clause and back out of this entirely, back out of the collective bargaining agreement and really try to rework things, because there's no mechanism, as Adam Silver said, that allows for a revenue drop of billions of dollars. It just doesn't exist. It's not workable within the framework of the current CBA, because no one ever anticipated that.
Keith Smith with us talking about the possibility of the NBA returning. And, obviously it sounded like there was overwhelming support among the players to resume and finish the season. According to the Associated Press, the players' desire to resume the season gave a, quote, clear sense that the players would like to play not just the postseason, but at least some of the regular season games as well. And to me, like, I look at it like this, Keith. They should try to at least play some of those regular season games to at least, see if anything happens, so that you're not shutting down the playoffs if something happens again. You know what I mean? Like, give it the 10 to 15 games so that if something ends up happening, that you're stopping the regular season, you're not stopping playoff games.
Yeah, and I think that's the ideal. I think it all comes down to time. It's going to come down to when do they want to be here. Now, Adam Silver threw water on the idea of, hey, we don't need to be done by Labor Day. That, if this takes into the fall, it goes into the fall. Now, everything I've been told, he's saying that, but the NBA still wants to be done by Labor Day. They just don't want to compete with the NFL if they don't have to. Now, on the flip side of that, yeah, you're absolutely right. You start up the regular season, get some games in and see where this goes to, and maybe you normalize the schedules to get it to everyone to roughly the same amount of regular season games, and then you get your seating locked and go, because that's what is really important there. Now, I will say, too, it was really good to see Adam Silver for the first time publicly say 2 to 4 weeks. We're going to make a decision here. And that seems to be really important, because it's always been, we're not putting a timetable on this. We're not putting a timetable on it. Well, clearly there is some. Within 2 weeks, we're going to see most of the NBA players back in their facilities, probably working out. It sounds like is the direction this is going. It sounds like, even the locations where there's still stay-at-home orders, they've been granted some exceptions to get back in and do those things. So they think within 2 weeks they're going to have a really good sense what kind of shape are the guys in, are we ready to go. And within 4 weeks you can really have a good announcement of a plan. And if you're also talking about Las Vegas and Walt Disney World as a single site, well, you have to be respectful of the fact that they're going to eventually reopen as well. And right, wrong, or indifferent, and I'm not offering an opinion on when they should or if they should, but they're going to do that at some point. You need to be respectful of the fact that they're being great partners right now, but at some point it's, hey, we need those rooms back for inventory. We need the other things we're offering up to you for things we need to be able to do for really true paying customers. We need to be able to, get our ducks in a row here for what it looks like to reopen our businesses as well. So that's why that 2 to 4 week timeline, was really stood out to me as that came out in the last couple of days. Yeah.
Now, that's a great point that I don't think it's been taken under consideration of, hey, what about Disney World reopening at some point and needing to utilize all these areas and potentially saying, hey, you can't be here this whole time. That would be an interesting wrinkle as well. All right, Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Great insight on the potential of the NBA returning, which I guess, Keith, you would say you feel positive about?
Yeah, I feel extremely positive. I think everything is heading in the direction that they're gonna reopen, restart this league. What form or fashion that takes, I'm not sure. One thing I do want to touch on with the Disney piece of it too, just so we get that on the same page, is it's highly likely Disney's going to go through a very phased opening. I don't think we're going to see them come back with all 4 of their theme parks and their water parks and all their need for all their hotels. One, the travel volume just isn't going to be there. A lot of people aren't going to be able to travel right away. And then the other piece of that, too, is I think Disney's going to be looking at, we need to do this slow and steady with this. That's been Bob Iger's approach the whole time, but which, still doesn't take them out of the running with the NBA. I think it firmly leaves them in there. And I feel very positive that's the direction that we're heading. I think we're going to get a resumption of this NBA season sometime over this coming summer.
At Keith Smith NBA, give him a follow. Keep following along to see what could happen next with the NBA. As, of course, we'll keep our eye on it, too, here on the Sports Bash. Keith, thanks, pal.
Absolutely. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
And Keith Smith, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.